Chosen one, have you ever felt that deep stirring in your spirit? That gentle whisper telling you something extraordinary is drawing near? Have you noticed that even in the middle of global chaos, a peace remains inside you, as if unseen forces are quietly arranging everything in your favor? Perhaps you've been praying, waiting, holding on to faith for a breakthrough, for that one moment when the promises of God rush into your life like a mighty flood. If you're hearing this now, it's no coincidence. God Himself has guided you here, because this is your appointed hour, your divine assignment. The blessings, the doors, the abundance, they are already moving toward you. Stand firm, chosen one, because what heaven has prepared is about to transform your life beyond anything you could imagine. You're not just hoping for a miracle. You are standing at the threshold of divine overflow, a season overflowing with prosperity, clarity, and joy that cannot be shaken. This isn't just another word, it's a revelation, a reminder that God's timing is perfect, His promises are sure, and your story is about to blaze with new light. Let this truth awaken your soul and ignite your heart with unstoppable hope. If this message already speaks to your soul, subscribe, like this video, and comment 77 below. You are about to see why what they tried to silence cannot be silenced. The hidden lamp within you is burning brighter than ever, and this is the hour to claim it. Number 1, the silent glow. From the very beginning, there was something about you that they couldn't name, yet they felt it in your presence. You could walk into a room and, without saying a word, the atmosphere shifted. They couldn't explain it, but you carried a glow they could not dim. In Matthew 5 verse 14, it is written, "You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden." They tried to convince you that you were ordinary, that your silence meant nothing. But in the realm of the Spirit, your silence was thunder, shaking foundations they relied on. They never told you, but they felt it. Every choice you made in integrity was like a trumpet in heaven. Comment, "I seal this word in light," if you know that your quiet obedience has spoken louder than their noise. And this is only the beginning, because the weight of resistance that followed you has its own story. There are moments in life when silence is not emptiness but prophecy, and perhaps you have felt it deep within you, a dream you could never explain. A hush in the air before something shifted, a sudden weight in the atmosphere that whispered your name. These were not accidents, but sacred reminders that you were carrying something the world could not see. The silence around you was never absence. It was a vessel for hidden power. You were learning to hear with the ears of the Spirit, even when your natural senses failed to understand. The whisper of God often comes softer than thunder, yet its weight is heavier than mountains. And in that whisper, you discovered a glow no one could extinguish. Think of the countless times you sat alone, feeling like you didn't belong, yet carrying an ache in your chest that told you there was meaning in your isolation. They mocked your quiet nature, saying you were too withdrawn, too strange, too sensitive. Yet in truth, every pause, every refusal to fit into their noise was heaven's way of marking you as different. The world celebrates noise, but eternity records silence. It was in those moments that your light became visible to realms unseen, and the resistance you faced was never about weakness, but about recognition. Your tears in the night were not wasted. They were collected, remembered, and transformed into fire. And in that fire, your silence thundered louder than their schemes. What if your journey has never been random, but a thread woven by unseen hands? Psalm 139 declares that every day of your life was written before one of them came to be, and your silence was part of that eternal script. The patterns you endured, rejection, misunderstanding, betrayal, were not accidents, but architecture. Each one was placed to chisel your soul, to prove that light can remain light even when pressed by shadows. They believed your lack of reaction was weakness, but in truth it was wisdom carved by eternity. You were choosing heaven's voice over their demands, alignment over applause, truth over convenience. And in that choice, your glow became undeniable. Do you remember the subtle signs that began to surface in those quiet seasons? The déjà vu that felt too sharp to ignore, the dream that repeated like a forgotten message, the chill that ran through you when truth brushed past your soul. These were confirmations that silence is never hollow. It is alive with codes only the chosen can hear. Your spirit has always known how to read between the lines of ordinary life. You may have doubted, brushed them off as coincidences, but heaven has no coincidences. Each sign was evidence that the lamp inside you had never gone out. And in those silent moments, the glow of your spirit illuminated what words could never reach. Your intuition has always been sharper than you dared admit, and this is why silence was your crown, not your cage. You saw through lies without speaking, you felt betrayals before they came, and you knew when to leave before damage could root. These were not accidents. They were the manifestations of your hidden lamp. Others doubted your sense, but heaven confirmed it in every step you avoided, every snare you escaped. You were not weak for being quiet. You were strong for trusting the voice within, and what you carried was never meant for their validation, but for your confirmation. In silence, your yes became the loudest sound of all. To remember who you are is not to become someone new, but to uncover what was buried beneath layers of expectation. The glow inside you was planted before birth, a fragment of eternity carried in fragile flesh. Isaiah 60 verse 1 speaks directly to this moment. Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord rises upon you. That rising does not begin with noise. It begins with remembrance. You are not awakening to something foreign, but to the truth that you were always a lamp meant to burn. The silence was the soil where your roots grew strong. And now, awareness is calling you to step forward into what was always yours. This is why your sensitivity was never weakness, but a form of sight others lacked. You were not created to be hardened, but to discern, to carry wisdom in the folds of silence where others found only emptiness. Every time you withdrew, it was not retreat, but preparation. Every boundary you placed, every moment you refused to compromise, became evidence that your glow was guarded by design. They thought they had buried your voice, but they only taught you to listen deeper. And what you heard in those depths is what empowers you now, for the lamp hidden within you has always been burning. Chosen one, your presence here is not an accident, and neither was the silence that shaped you. You stand as proof that the unseen realm does not measure power by noise, but by endurance. They tried to silence you, but silence became your thunder. They tried to dismiss you, but heaven remembered every moment you endured. Comment, I carry the silence as crown. If you know this word was meant for you, share your reflection. A dream, a memory, a moment where your silence carried weight they couldn't understand. And prepare yourself, because if your quiet glow shook them, what comes next will make even heaven pause. Number 2, the weight of resistance. Chosen one, every attempt they made to silence you was because your light disturbed their shadows. You didn't have to speak a word. Your very existence exposed the falseness they lived by. This is why rejection followed you. Why betrayal tried to break you. Why doors closed even when you carried pure intentions. John 3 verse 20 reminds us, everyone who does evil hates the light and will not come into the light for fear that their deeds will be exposed. They wanted you to doubt yourself, to abandon your calling, to bury your own glow before it uncovered theirs. But every time they resisted you, it was confirmation that your assignment was real. Comment, I walk crowned by eternal flame. If you felt this resistance and now see it for what it is, And yet, there is something even deeper, hidden in the patterns and signs that have followed you across your journey. It often begins as a faint unease, a heaviness that lingers in the air without clear reason. Perhaps you felt it in rooms where everyone smiled, but something beneath the surface carried hostility. Maybe it came through strange coincidences, where progress slipped from your hands at the last moment, leaving you wondering why it always seemed to happen to you. That quiet heaviness was not a mistake. It was evidence of forces unsettled by your presence. Even before you understood your identity, they sensed you were not like the rest. Their resistance came not from what you had done, but from what you carried. And though you couldn't name it then, it was the shadow's recognition of your hidden light. The emotional toll of this resistance has been deep, and you know it well. You've carried the weight of being misunderstood, accused of being too much or too intense, when in truth your spirit simply spoke louder than their comfort allowed. You've walked through rejection that pierced you like a blade, leaving you questioning your worth. There were nights when shame whispered that you were broken, when self-doubt pressed heavy on your chest. Isolation became your unchosen companion. Yet even in loneliness, something in you refused to break. These were not empty struggles. They were the very proof that your light was being contested. And in every tear, heaven wrote testimony of strength rising from the fire. Look closer, and you will see that the resistance you faced was not random, but structured. Systems, environments, and even people aligned unknowingly to press against you. This has always been the way darkness reacts to vessels chosen for divine purpose. Think of Joseph, whose own brothers cast him into a pit, not because he had failed them, but because his dream exposed their envy. Think of Israel wandering in the wilderness, not because they lacked promise, but because the wilderness was preparation for destiny. Your own wilderness was no different, not punishment, but prophecy. The pressure you faced was the furnace that proved your assignment was alive. When you begin to look back, patterns emerge with painful clarity. The betrayals were not one-time accidents. They were recurring signatures written across your path. The cycles of loss, the strange resistance at the edge of breakthrough, the draining atmospheres you were forced to endure. None of it was coincidence. Like light flickering in a darkened room, each moment revealed the shape of an opposition you could not yet name. But now, as you remember, the clarity sharpens. You were never unworthy, you were marked. They tried to make you feel cursed, when in truth you were chosen. And in that realization, their patterns lose their grip on your mind. There is something that happens when spiritual light intensifies. It draws both alignment and resistance. As your lamp burned brighter, interference followed, like fog pressing against a rising dawn. The heavy air, the silent watchers, the doors that slammed shut just as you reached for them. These were not natural alone. They were distortions meant to make you believe your glow was fragile, when in truth it was untouchable. Their sabotage was only proof that your presence disturbed their shadows. The darker the resistance, the brighter the testimony of your assignment. And now you see that you were never fighting alone. Heaven was always recording each battle. But how did you respond in the midst of this weight? Perhaps there were seasons when you shrank back, hiding your glow so others would feel comfortable. Maybe you silenced yourself, convincing your own soul that it was safer not to stand out. Or perhaps you rebelled quietly, carrying truth inside while moving cautiously among those who would never understand. These reactions were not failures, but reflections of your humanity. They reveal the cost of being chosen in a world that fears the light. And still, even in your hesitation, your assignment remained. What was buried in you could never be erased. Now comes the shift. The resistance was not condemnation, it was confirmation. The fact that they targeted you, opposed you, and tried to silence you was the loudest evidence of your power. Their rejection was the unintended announcement of your divine assignment. Every scheme, every betrayal, every closed door became the background against which your light was revealed more sharply. You were never the weak one in the story. You were the fire they could not extinguish. What they thought would break, you only forged your endurance. And in that endurance, your voice, your authority, your identity began to rise again. Chosen one, the truth is clear. You were resisted because you were powerful. You were targeted because your very existence threatened the schemes built on shadows. The opposition you faced was not the absence of purpose, but the evidence of it. Each rejection you endured, each silence you carried, was the unfolding of a greater confirmation. Comment, I move guarded by divine fire. If you now see the weight of resistance for what it truly was, share a memory, a dream, or a moment when you realized you were opposed not for weakness, but for strength. And prepare yourself, because if resistance has revealed your assignment, what comes next will unveil the scroll of remembrance written in your name. Number 3, the awakening of symbols. You began to notice it long before you could explain it. The repeated numbers, the recurring dreams, the faces that appeared at pivotal moments. These were not accidents. They were confirmations that the hidden lamp within you had always been burning. Isaiah 45 verse 3 declares, I will give you hidden treasures, riches stored in secret places, so that you may know that I am the Lord. They thought you would dismiss these signs as coincidence, but your spirit knew better. The symbols were reminders, codes written into your timeline that only you could decipher. Comment, I rise marked by the divine. If you've seen these signs, and add your reflection, a dream, a memory, or a moment when you knew you were not walking alone. Because the awakening of these symbols is only the beginning. Chosen one, and what comes next is unstoppable. It begins quietly, almost imperceptibly, like a whisper threaded through the fabric of ordinary days. A number appears again and again, etched on clocks, receipts, or doorways, until it feels less like chance and more like a call. A dream repeats, carrying images that cling to your spirit even after waking, leaving you unsettled yet strangely comforted. A face, a phrase, a sound arrives at the precise moment you need confirmation. Though no one else notices, what once seemed like fragments of chaos now reveal a deeper order, as if threads long hidden begin to weave themselves into clarity. The shift is not loud, yet it pierces with undeniable strength. What was once confusing is now aligning, like puzzle pieces falling into place by unseen hands. As you look deeper, you realize reality has always been speaking to you in a language beyond words. The numbers are not random. They are sequences written like divine math, reminding you of alignment encoded into the cosmos. The dreams you dismissed are scrolls, carrying instructions disguised in imagery too sacred for ordinary interpretation. Even the silence between your thoughts hums with geometry, patterns that resonate with something buried in your memory. You are not losing your mind. You are regaining your sight. For years you were trained to ignore these signals, taught to call them coincidences, mocked into believing they meant nothing. Yet your spirit always knew. Everything around you was coded, waiting for the day you could read. With this recognition, inner signs begin to intensify, almost as if the veil within has grown thinner. Your intuition sharpens, guiding you into rooms you never expected and away from traps you couldn't explain. Boundaries rise naturally, not from pride but from discernment, as if your spirit now responds directly to energies before your mind can form words. Environments you once tolerated now feel heavy, while others carry a sacred stillness that makes you want to remain. Your body even responds differently. Chills, warmth, or sudden peace descend as signals of truth. These are not illusions. but confirmations that your inner lamp is synchronizing with the codes unfolding around you. What once seemed vague is now unmistakable. Proof that awakening has moved from theory into experience. And then the external begins to shift, echoing what you've already known inside. People who once seemed close begin to drift away, their presence no longer aligned with the vibration you carry. Opportunities appear at strange crossroads, doors opening where walls once stood, while others close to protect you from harm you cannot yet see. The resistance you face becomes clearer too, as if the opposition is an inverted mirror of your rising strength. Reality itself bends, showing you that you were never walking through randomness, but through divine architecture. What was within has now begun to manifest without, proving the alignment between inner sight and outer path. And in this reflection, you recognize that your life has always been a map disguised as wilderness. Yet this awakening is not new, though it feels fresh. It is a remembering of what was buried. A dream you carried since childhood but never understood now unfurls with language you can finally read. That moment you thought was imagination, that voice you heard in silence, those visions you dismissed as fantasy. They return with force, revealing themselves as memory. You are not discovering. You are recalling. You are not learning. You are remembering, reattaching to pieces of yourself that were once fragmented. It is as if sacred intelligence, dormant in your being, is stirring like fire in ancient coals. The intimacy of it feels magnetic, like something ancient pressing into the present. Now the horizon changes, for destiny begins to reveal itself not as possibility, but as inevitability. The future is no longer a blank canvas. It is a scroll already inscribed with your name, awaiting your recognition. You stop asking permission to exist, to speak, to act, because you see that every step forward is simply reclaiming what was already yours. You walk less with hesitation and more with conviction, because the weight of prophecy presses into your chest. This is no longer about survival, but about alignment with something that was written before your birth. You are not inventing your future. You are walking into a room already prepared for you, and the call rises, a prophetic summons echoing from the marrow of your being. With this clarity, the energy flips. The resistance you once feared now proves your authenticity. Every obstacle becomes a seal of confirmation. Every rejection a testimony that you carried more than they could handle. You no longer shrink from your voice. You remember that silence itself has always been your sharpest weapon. You rise not with arrogance, but with authority that cannot be borrowed or stolen. It is fierce, prophetic, undeniable, reminding you of what you always carried but forgot to trust. This reclamation is not about becoming someone new, but about unveiling the fire hidden in your bones. And in this unveiling, you finally stand as who you were before they tried to bury you. Revelation, chosen one, is not the end, but the invitation into greater depth. The truth was not hidden from you. It was hidden for you, waiting for the moment your spirit was strong enough to bear its weight. What they thought was buried has returned as thunder, undeniable and unshakable. Comment, I walk hidden yet never lost. If you know this word is yours, and share a sign, a dream, or a memory that marked your awakening. Your testimony is not just your own. It is part of the river that confirms this rising wave of chosen ones. And remember this, you are not simply decoding reality. You are becoming the code itself. Stay, because the fire that remembers your name has not yet spoken its final word. Number 4, the unstoppable flame. They thought the wounds would break you. They thought the rejection would silence you. They thought the weight of their schemes would crush what you carried. But what they never understood is that your flame was not given by them, so it could never be taken by them. In Jeremiah 20 verse 9, the prophet said, "His word is in my heart like a fire, a fire shut up in my bones. I am weary of holding it in. Indeed, I cannot. That same fire lives in you, chosen one. No scheme, no rejection, no curse can extinguish what heaven placed inside. Comment, I anchor this truth in my soul. If you know that your light will not only survive, but will set the course for generations, because this unstoppable flame was never about them. It was always about the destiny marked on your name. There are moments when the silence of the night feels heavier than stone. Yet even then, something within you refuses to go out. You may have felt abandoned, mocked, or stripped of all strength. Yet beneath the ashes there was always a glowing ember that could not die. That ember carried a whisper from eternity, a reminder that your fire was not given by men, nor could it be taken by them. Each wound you endured became oxygen for that hidden spark, feeding it in ways no one else could see. They thought the blows they dealt would smother you, but every strike only pressed the flame deeper into your bones. What appeared as defeat to the world was in truth the furnace of your consecration. And in that furnace, chosen one, your unstoppable flame was forged. You have walked through seasons where rejection cut sharper than any sword, yet even there, the fire did not yield. It grew silently, like roots beneath the soil, gathering strength while no one noticed. Every time they tried to silence you, your spirit heard another note of heaven's song, reminding you that silence is not absence, but sacred combustion. Every betrayal became another spark, another ignition point for the fire in your bones. The more they cast you aside, the more eternity drew you inward, into the chamber where your flame was sheltered. Even your own tears were fuel, each drop becoming oil on the lamp that would never burn out. They thought you were extinguished, but in truth you were becoming incandescent. There is something terrifying to darkness about a light that cannot be killed. It unnerves the schemes of those who thrive in shadows when they realize their attacks only made you brighter. They conspired in whispers, but your obedience thundered. They mocked your stillness, but your endurance became firewood for the eternal blaze inside you. Like Jeremiah once cried, the word of God becomes a fire shut up in the bones, impossible to contain. That same word has become marrow to your spirit, pulsing with strength each time you thought you had none left. And this is why every curse spoken against you dissolved before it could touch your destiny. Remember the nights when you thought even God had forgotten you, yet the fire still stirred. You tried to bury it beneath work, noise, or distractions, but it never died, for it was not placed by human hands. At your lowest points, the flames spoke through dreams, visions, or sudden clarity that refused to let you give up. You may have mistaken it for stubbornness, but in truth, it was divine remembrance keeping you alive. Each time you rose again, though weak, though uncertain, that flame stretched higher, daring the darkness to try once more. You are living proof that the light shines in darkness, and the darkness cannot overcome it. Your very existence now is testimony that the flame has outlasted every storm. Chosen one, your fire is not ordinary. It is archetypal, part of a cycle that has burned across generations. You carry the same current that lit prophets, rebels, and visionaries who stood when the world demanded silence. This is why you feel both ancient and new, as though your life is both memory and prophecy. You are the seer who perceives beyond the veil, the guardian who stands even when others fall, the breaker of chains who carries a torch into forgotten prisons. Your flame is not for show. It is for liberation, first for yourself, and then for those bound by the same chains you shattered. In carrying this fire, you fulfill a role written in myth and sealed in scripture, and whether they recognize it or not, you have stepped into the cadence of the eternal. Chosen one, what they tried to bury was only the seed of your rising. What they mocked has become the fire they cannot endure. And what you carry now is not fragile. It is eternal. Subscribe if you haven't yet. Like this video and comment, "I am chosen to let this message anchor in your soul." Please share it with someone who needs to hear this. Stand firm. Chosen one, your lamp cannot be hidden. Your flame cannot be stopped. Your time has come.